Picture this, a place so magnificent, it held the entire knowledge of the ancient world. A library that wasn't just a building but the Google of its time. Where the greatest minds Aristotle, Archimedes, Euclid came to study, research, and change the world forever. This was the Library of Alexandria, the intellectual capital of the ancient world. It didn't just have books, it had original manuscripts handwritten by geniuses themselves. The answers to questions we're still asking today were all here in one place. But then, tragedy struck. What took centuries to build was destroyed in flames. The greatest collection of knowledge ever assembled, gone forever. How did it happen? Who was responsible? And what did we lose that day? This is the story of history's greatest intellectual disaster. The Library of Alexandria represented the pinnacle of ancient architectural and intellectual ambition. Constructed during the reign of Ptolemy I Soter around 285 BCE, this magnificent institution was part of the larger museum, or Temple of the Muses, establishing Alexandria as the intellectual capital of the ancient world. The library complex spanned multiple buildings and courtyards, featuring grand colonnades, lecture halls, gardens, and even a zoo for biological research. Its strategic location in Alexandria, the Mediterranean's bustling port city, made it accessible to scholars from across 3 continents. The main library building itself was an architectural marvel, constructed with gleaming white marble that reflected the brilliant Egyptian sun. Vast halls stretched endlessly, each lined with numbered shelves containing carefully organized scrolls. Special storage rooms called armaria housed the most precious manuscripts, while reading rooms provided spaces for scholars to study the texts. The library followed a meticulous organizational system developed by Callimachus of Cyrene, who created the Pinox, the first known library catalog, listing authors and their works across 120 scrolls. This systematic approach to knowledge management was revolutionary for its time. The scale of the library's collection was unprecedented in human history. Conservative estimates suggest it housed at least 400,000 scrolls, while some ancient sources claim the number reached 700,000 at its peak. Each scroll, handcrafted from papyrus or parchment, represented weeks or months of labor by skilled scribes. The library employed a large staff including librarians, translators, scribes, and conservators who worked tirelessly to maintain and expand the collection. This wasn't merely a repository of books, it was a living, breathing institution dedicated to the pursuit and preservation of knowledge across all known disciplines. Famous scholars and discoveries. The library attracted the greatest minds of the ancient world, creating an environment where intellectual breakthroughs occurred with remarkable frequency. Euclid, often called the father of geometry, taught and wrote his seminal work, Elements, here. This 13-volume masterpiece systematized all known geometric knowledge and remained the standard mathematics textbook for over 2 millennia. His axiomatic approach to geometry established foundational principles that mathematicians still use today. Archimedes of Syracuse, though primarily based in Sicily, maintained strong connections with the library and his works were extensively studied there. His principles of leverage, buoyancy, and hydrostatics revolutionized physics and engineering. The famous Archimedes screw for lifting water and his war machines that defended Syracuse against Roman siege demonstrated the practical applications of his theoretical work. His method of exhaustion for calculating areas and volumes laid the groundwork for what would later become integral calculus. Perhaps the most astonishing achievement came from Eratosthenes of Cyrene, who served as chief librarian around 240 BCE. Using simple geometric principles and remarkable observational skills, he calculated the Earth's circumference with stunning accuracy. By measuring the angle of the sun's shadow at Alexandria versus Syene on the summer solstice, and knowing the distance between the 2 cities, he estimated the Earth's circumference as approximately 252,000 stadia, about 39,375 kilometers, which is within 1 to 2% of the actual value. This calculation, made over 2,000 years before modern technology, demonstrated the power of rational inquiry and mathematical reasoning. Other notable scholars included Herophilus, who pioneered human dissection and identified the brain as the center of intelligence, Aristarchus of Samos, who proposed a heliocentric solar system centuries before Copernicus, and Hipparchus, who created the first comprehensive star catalog and developed trigonometric tables. These intellectuals didn't work in isolation but collaborated, debated, and built upon each other's work in an environment that valued empirical evidence and The library's comprehensive collection resulted from an aggressive and systematic acquisition policy unprecedented in the ancient world. The Ptolemaic kings implemented a remarkable strategy. Every ship docking in Alexandria's bustling harbor was searched for scrolls. When found, these texts were confiscated and taken to the library where teams of scribes would meticulously copy them. The original texts were retained for the library's collection while the copies were returned to the ship owners. This practice, though controversial, ensured the library acquired unique texts from across the Mediterranean world. Beyond this maritime acquisition method, the Ptolemies employed dedicated agents who traveled throughout the known world purchasing scrolls at markets and from private collectors. They sought texts from Athens, Rhodes, Rome, Persia, India, and even distant regions. King Ptolemy III famously borrowed the official Athenian texts of Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides from Athens, depositing a massive security of 15 talents of silver as guarantee. He then kept the originals, forfeited the silver, and sent back copies, demonstrating the lengths to which the library would go to obtain original works. The translation efforts at the library were equally ambitious. The most famous project was the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, produced by 72 Jewish scholars brought to Alexandria for this purpose. This massive translation undertaking made Jewish scriptures accessible to the Greek-speaking world and demonstrated the library's commitment to cross-cultural knowledge preservation. Similar translation projects included Persian Zoroastrian texts, Indian medical treatises, and Babylonian astronomical observations, creating a truly global repository of knowledge. The library also maintained a scriptorium where teams of scribes continuously produced copies of important works. These copies were sometimes traded with other libraries or sold to wealthy collectors, spreading knowledge throughout the ancient world while generating revenue to support the library's operations. This systematic approach to knowledge collection, preservation, and dissemination made the Library of Alexandria humanity's first attempt to gather all the world's knowledge in one place, a dream that continues to inspire our modern information age. The first major blow came in 48 BCE during Julius Caesar's Alexandrian War. Trapped in the palace quarter, Caesar ordered his troops to set fire to Egyptian ships in the harbor to prevent their use by enemy forces. The flames spread uncontrollably, engulfing the warehouse district where thousands of scrolls were stored awaiting transfer to the library. While the main library building may have survived, this conflagration consumed an estimated 40,000 to 70,000 priceless scrolls. This was not intentional destruction but a tragic military accident that nevertheless represented an irreplaceable loss of ancient knowledge. Christian attacks. In 391 CE, as Christianity became the Roman Empire's official religion, Emperor Theodosius I ordered the destruction of pagan temples. Patriarch Theophilus of Alexandria led a Christian mob that destroyed the Serapeum, the library's daughter temple, that housed additional collections. While the scale is debated, contemporary accounts describe the burning of pagan texts and the destruction of the Serapeum's intellectual heritage. This marked a systematic religious purge rather than accidental loss, where works deemed contrary to Christian doctrine were targeted for elimination in the growing conflict between classical learning and new religious orthodoxy. Muslim conquest theory. The final chapter came with the Muslim conquest of Alexandria in 642 CE. While historical evidence is limited, later accounts suggest Caliph Omar authorized the destruction of remaining texts, reportedly stating that if they agreed with the Quran they were redundant, and if they disagreed they were heretical. Manuscripts were allegedly used to fuel the city's bathhouses for months. However, many modern scholars question this narrative's reliability, noting it appears centuries later in Muslim sources. The truth likely involves gradual decline over centuries rather than a single catastrophic event, with the library fading into memory. The incalculable tragedy of Alexandria's destruction lies in the specific knowledge that vanished forever. We lost approximately 90% of all classical Greek literature, including complete works of playwrights like Sophocles, Aeschylus, and Euripides. Of Sophocles' 120 plays, only 7 survive today. Aristotle's personal library and dialogues, which Cicero described as a river of gold, compared to his surviving works as a stream of silver, were consumed by the flames. Revolutionary scientific texts by pioneers like Hipparchus in astronomy, Herophilus in medicine, and countless mathematical treatises disappeared. The library held original accounts of lost civilizations, early geographic explorations, and philosophical schools whose ideas might have accelerated human progress by centuries. This wasn't just the loss of books, it was the silencing of voices that shaped Western civilization, creating permanent gaps in our understanding of the ancient world's intellectual achievements. Yet from these ashes rose enduring inspiration. The dream of universal knowledge that fueled Alexandria now drives humanity's greatest projects. The Internet represents our digital Alexandria, attempting to gather all human knowledge in one accessible place. Wikipedia continues the mission of the Pinox catalog. Modern libraries worldwide emulate Alexandria's democratic ideal of knowledge for all. Scientific research institutions mirror its collaborative spirit. The very concept of universities as centers for multidisciplinary research originated here. Every digital archive, every open access initiative, every global knowledge-sharing platform carries Alexandria's DNA. The library's destruction taught us the fragility of knowledge, making preservation our collective responsibility. Its ghost haunts every scholar, every librarian, every seeker of truth, reminding us that the pursuit and protection of knowledge remains humanity's noblest calling across millennia. The story of Alexandria's library is more than historical tragedy, it's a permanent warning about knowledge's fragility. For centuries, this magnificent institution stood as humanity's boldest attempt to gather all understanding in one place, where genius flourished across disciplines. Its destruction, whether through accident, religious conflict, or war, represents one of civilization's greatest setbacks. The smoke that rose from burning scrolls didn't just erase ancient texts. It delayed human progress, silenced brilliant voices, and created intellectual voids we still feel today. Yet, in its haunting absence, Alexandria teaches us profound lessons about the value of preservation, the danger of ideological extremism, and the responsibility each generation bears to protect and advance human understanding. The library's physical form is gone, but its spirit survives in every quest for knowledge, every shared discovery, every effort to bridge cultures through learning. It reminds us that knowledge isn't just power, it's humanity's most precious inheritance, and its protection is our sacred duty to future generations. Now this story becomes your responsibility. What knowledge will you preserve? What will you add to humanity's collective understanding? Visit your local library, support digital archives, share what you learn, and never underestimate your role in the ongoing story of human knowledge. Like the scholars of Alexandria, you're part of this eternal quest. Subscribe for more journeys into lost history, share this video to spread awareness, and remember, every book you read, every idea you explore, continues the dream that began in those marble halls centuries ago. The great library is gone, but its mission lives on through you.